Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. One of the things I take pride in with this channel is that I don't make the habit of, trying to incite fear and panic and hatred in this channel. I try to do the opposite. Um, Thus, when you see me examining, certain mindsets, things like this, concepts as opposed to current events, then I'm usually doing this when not much has really happened, not much has changed. Such as right now, in the past week, not much has actually changed with world events. Um, not in comparison to what happened from the last time I recorded a video. So, the war in Ukraine is still going on. Zelensky is still asking for ridiculous things. Now he wants 1,000 anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles a day being sent to Ukraine. 1,000 a day. There are not 1,000 tanks. There are not 1,000 jets flying over Ukraine. So, he is not focusing on any kind of peace agreement at all. And so he wants to extend the war. He wants more people to die. That's it, period, okay? That's the most significant change in the past week. So we've all heard this thing about whataboutism. And a lot of people aren't really clear on just what this is. So let me give you a couple of examples to start off. One time, years ago, I got fired from a job as a nurse. And what happened was an incompetent nurse and a difficult and incompetent patient. The events happened behind my back. I didn't have any control over it. And yet, because I was supposed to be the supervisor over this person, which I could not supervise every moment, I got fired. Anyway, so I applied for unemployment. The employer objected, and this wound up in a phone conference between myself, the manager, and a municipal court judge. The events which happened were outlined by him, by me. Both sides were heard. Then the manager launched into this tirade saying, well, what if I had done this? I don't remember what it was, but it was something outrageous. And I was aghast. I was sitting back, but I just sat back and let him feed out his own rope. And the municipal court judge asked him, well, did that happen? No, but what if? Okay, so this was, what about if this had happened? So anyway, I was granted immediately my unemployment. The municipal court judge let him go off the phone call, and before I got off the phone, she said, your check will be in, your unemployment will be in the bank this Friday. So, but this was a judge that could see through the whataboutism. But too many people are not actually looking at the difference between what about and reality. One example of this are the biolabs in Ukraine, in which Russia is showing documentation that they have obtained at the UN. They are showing the documents to back up their claims. We know that, so what we know is that there are at least a dozen biolabs in Ukraine. We know that these labs were being funded by the Pentagon, by the U.S. Pentagon. And yet what we are hearing from our government, especially Victoria Nuland, is, well, we're afraid that, Russia might obtain what's in these labs and use them as biological weapons. Well, a lot of these labs have got specimens that date back to the Soviet era, so Russia's already got a lot of the freaking specimens that are being obtained, although if they've been altered, not so much. So this is whataboutism. What about if Russia uses these biological weapons? If Russia was going to use biological weapons, wouldn't they have kind of led with this? Wouldn't they have done this already? You don't hear about some plague spreading across Europe as refugees exit Ukraine. It is very possible that we'll see some standard infections which are endemic to that region and not other parts of the country of Europe that might occur. But as far as anything deadly, and we have not heard of anything like that. Nothing, period. So we keep on hearing all this whataboutism. What if Russia uses nuclear weapons? Have they used Yes, they have nuclear weapons. Have they used them? Have they threatened to use them? No. Russia espouses a no first strike policy, which is a policy the United States does not have. There is only one country that has ever used nuclear weapons in warfare, and that is the United States. And we're the ones making the claims that Russia might do this. Meanwhile, you've got biolabs in at least 12 biological labs in Ukraine with deadly organisms that they have been experimenting with, backed by the United States, that has backed gain-of-function research in Wuhan. And we're supposed to believe that, what about if Russia does this? We're supposed to be afraid of that instead of being fearful of neo-Nazis with potential biological weapons. Gee, what could go wrong there? Let's keep in mind, these neo-Nazis have done things like dip bullets in pig fat to use against Muslim combatants that are fighting against them. Now, to you and I, that would not represent an infection, but to a dedicated Muslim, that would be a form of infection, not only of their body, but of their soul. So if they're willing to do that, how far of a step is it to be willing to use biological weapons? I mean, they're basically one and the same. So when we start hearing all this whataboutism, what if, has this happened? Do you have any evidence that this is happening right now? Has there been any intelligence which the public can see to make you believe that this is a viable threat? When the answer is no, then you need to reject that argument. Period. You ask the valid questions, just like the judge in the phone call with me and that manager. She asked, well, has this happened? No, it has not happened. So it's not viable. It is nothing to be believed in. And the same thing with these biolabs. Has Russia, I mean, we know for a fact that Russia has already seized some of those biolabs. Some of them were right on the Russian border. So we know that they have seized some of those biolabs. Have they done anything with the organisms in those labs? No, they took the documentation from those labs and have presented it to the UN. So which one is the threat? The ones that are denying and yet have been shown to at least engage in research? There are reports that around some of these labs, they have experimented on Ukrainian military members, that hundreds of civilians have died in the areas around those labs from infections that are not common, that were even considered completely eradicated globally. And yet we're supposed to be, and that was long before the Russian invasion. This was in preceding years. These reports are coming out. We're seeing reports that are coming out from Mariupol from civilians stating that the Ukrainian military are holding civilians hostage as human shields. We know that the Ukrainian military is setting up camp in schoolyards and in hospitals. So we know these things. So saying, what if Russia does this? We already have the evidence of what is true. So all this hypothesizing and whataboutism, what if, etc. Okay, there's always the potential. There is the potential that the CDC could release deadly infections into our own public, or use it in warfare against international law. What if they did that? What about? The fact that our government, our military, is doing biological research in other countries is a major cause for concern. So, what about what's going on in those labs? How strong is the oversight? We give these countries with unstable governments, highly corrupt governments, we give them deadly organisms to do research with, and we think that this is going to turn out well. No, I reject that argument. Anyway, stop, but I'm going into my own whataboutism. Right there, I just did it myself. So, but at least it's with a valid basis. It's a valid question, but I'm not suggesting any action on this. I'm just suggesting questioning this. You know, I'm not waging a war. I'm not suggesting a war. I'm against war. Anyway, share this video. Talk about these subjects. Reject whataboutism. Turn off the corporate news. Call out your elected officials. We should be acting on what is known instead of whataboutism. All right? So share this video. Talk about these subjects. If you can, please donate $1 a month to help expand the channel. The big announcement that I was going to make, I'm going to delay for a few days. I'm working on some stuff on the back end, which is going to, be a part of that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a good day.